I get a lot of questions that ask me, but Lori, what do I do when my child won't listen, my child is defiant, my child acts aggressive, my child won't calm down, my child still refuses? What do I do then? And I have to say that my 5 steps for peaceful conflict resolution never change. I always use the teach tool. But the teach tool, we have to use it creatively. It's not just about running in 5 steps and then conflict is resolved. It's really about taking the opportunity to create teachable moments with our kids, right? So let's go over the exact process of how we do that, because you can use the same 5 steps for every conflict, but you have to be creative. You have to be willing to take it step by step and not rush through them, not rush right to the end where we get to the problem-solving step, but really start to hang out and get comfortable with feelings, needs, tolerance, respect, empathy, understanding, all of those things that go into building stronger bonds and resolving conflict peacefully. Now, when you follow these simple 5 steps, simple to remember, not so simple to always apply, but when you follow these 5 steps and when you start to create a pattern of using this model to resolve your conflict, to approach difficulties with your children, then you'll start to see that the level of cooperation rises and kids start to become more emotionally flexible. So this is the teach tool. The first step is T. T is where we take a minute to breathe and observe. This is where we're going to go into the situation, but first we need to self-regulate. We need to practice some self-empathy. If we're triggered emotionally, we need to take care of that before we walk into a conflict or any situation with our kids. Because if we go in emotionally charged, the only thing we're going to be able to do is declare right and wrong or use blame, shame, judgment, or guilt, because those feelings are uncomfortable. And we don't like being uncomfortable. So we really want to go in and manage our emotional state. Now, once we've managed that emotional state, once we've decided what am I feeling, what am I needing, what's connected here, what am I being triggered into, am I safe, am I okay, you want to take 10 deep breaths. If you don't have time to take 10 deep breaths, take 3 deep breaths. But you want to censor the first thing that comes into your brain, and you want to regulate your emotions. Now, once your emotions are regulated, you can look at the situation. What is happening here? What do I see happening? Without judgment, without interpretations, without assigning blame, or without making assumptions about what's going on, about each person's intentions. So that's the first step, T. Take a minute to breathe and observe the situation so that we can go in and state what we see without inciting more negativity. The second step, E. Engage and empathize. Now, a lot of parents will say to me, I do empathize, it doesn't get me anywhere. But I want to make sure that we're using empathy in the proper way. We don't want to use empathy to just get our kids to do what we want. We really need to use empathy because we have a desire to deepen our understanding of someone else's experience. So you want to get down on your child's level. You want to take a moment before you ask them to get dressed or to get finished or to shut off the TV. Bend down. Be curious about what's going on for them in the moment. Can you connect before you need to direct their activities? Make eye contact. Notice your body language and your tone. You want to approach the situation with curiosity. Curiosity is the elixir to judgment. Sometimes we don't even realize the judgment or the blame or the shame that's underneath our words. It's coming through in our attitude or perhaps the way we're standing. We can be really intimidating to kids. If they feel intimidated, then that shuts down their ability to receive our empathy because they stay in a self-protective state. So you want to use loving words to connect. I can tell by your words that you're very angry. It must be difficult to be excluded by your friends. And we want to stay there. We don't want to say things like, oh, you don't need them, or they'll get over it. Those girls don't know what they're missing. You have plenty of friends. Right? That's not empathy. What that does is that negates our child's experience. And sometimes we do that just because we want them to feel better. We're in a rush to fix the situation. But we have to understand that empathy is there to connect. It's there to help us relate to another human being. But it's not there to fix situations for our children or to simply just make them feel better or get over their feelings. Empathy is really how kids get through their feelings. Through this shared understanding and this connection, they are able to detach emotionally and look at their feelings from a new perspective. They're able to see that other people don't have any control over their emotions and experiences, but they can only do that once they've really felt their emotions and once they feel like they have been felt themselves. Let's talk about step 3. Step 3 is the A, acknowledge. This is where we want to acknowledge and validate those feelings and needs that we've just discovered. Now, sometimes we need to hang out with empathy for a while, and it doesn't happen right away. And sometimes we may not even be sure what's really going on. But this is where we can use our curiosity to guess, what is my child feeling? Not just what are they doing. We really want to take our lens off of behavior. We want to look beyond behavior and start to look underneath at what's driving behavior. We want to acknowledge and validate the feelings that are the source of the frustration or the disconnection or the fear. What is my child feeling in this moment? He may be acting in a certain way that's unacceptable, but his feelings are acceptable. So what is he feeling? Is it anger, disconnection? And what is he needing? Is your child needing attention, appreciation, autonomy, acceptance? You want to validate what's going on for your child. You're frustrated at being interrupted. I can see that you were expecting a different outcome. You're disappointed that it's time to leave the park. And then leave it at that. We want to leave out the but it doesn't matter, or you should just, or you could just, or if you would only. And we want to stay with acknowledging what's real for our children, because then, when they feel acknowledged and validated, they can find their own solutions. The 4th step is connect and problem solve. And again, this isn't going to happen right away, and many times it can happen without us. The creativity will come once children feel regulated and once they feel like their needs and feelings have been tended to. Sometimes they're overwhelming for kids. They don't know what to do with these feelings, so they lash out. Their systems are immature. And even if you have an older child who gets very angry very quickly, that means they have a low threshold for stress and change. So if they fly off the handle easily, it's a signal to you that they need more attention to their emotional regulation, to their emotional state. Our ability to manage our emotions is what's going to dictate our behaviors. If we are behaving negatively, that means we have an unmanaged emotional state. And the way that we manage emotions is by looking at them, by naming them, labeling them, discovering the source of them, and then disconnecting from them enough to say, hey, I can feel differently if I choose. But that's not going to happen right away. And we can't just tell our kids, oh, well, you should just choose to feel differently. Right? It only comes through empathy, through the emotional connection. So step 4 is a logical step. This is where we're going to use our executive function. But we have to make sure that we are connected to our executive function. So you need to hang out with the TEA. I always say, hang out and have a cup of tea. Don't move to problem solving until we are calm, regulated, and open to new ideas. And then you want to connect with your child. You can connect in so many ways. It doesn't just have to be verbally. You can use your body language to connect by lowering yourself, by relaxing your shoulders, by softening your face. You can use physical contact to connect, as long as your child is open to receiving it. Some kids resist and react to physical touch, so you want to make sure you know your child. But physical contact can really provide the kind of validation that your child needs, and some kids need space. So it's important to know, how do I connect with my child best? Does my child respond better to a hug, a cuddle, or perhaps some space and some quiet time? But when you know that your child's receptive, you want to come together to connect and problem solve. How can we heal together? Can we brainstorm solutions? Can we investigate the needs and feelings of others to find out how we got to this situation? When kids are feeling regulated and feeling valued and accepted and like they belong, then they can start to look at the feelings and needs of other people without holding on so tightly to their own position. We can say, how do you think our friend is feeling? And they will actually be able to take that perspective if we have laid that foundation for emotional safety. Now the final step is H. How does it feel? This is really where we need to take a step back and look. How do I feel after resolving this conflict with my child? Do I feel defeated, worn out, or do I feel empowered and resilient and loving towards my child? And how does my child feel? Do they feel understood and heard? This step is important because sometimes when we leave a conflict with our child, we think that they've forgotten about it, that it's just maybe rolled off their back, that they didn't really take our words seriously, or they didn't take our actions or our negative behavior or our stress personally. But they do. I mean, we know how easy it is for us to take our own kids' behavior personally, so imagine how easy it is for them to internalize our stress as something that they were the cause of. So it's really important to know, how do I feel? How does everyone feel after we've left this situation? Is the situation truly resolved? And we'll know that by looking at our kids, noticing how they respond and react. Does your child avoid conflict? Does your child avoid talking about the situation? Does your child say things like, I don't care? Because that'll tell you that there's still something going on. Don't be afraid to apologize to your child. Repair is so very important. And it's such a wonderful lesson for helping kids, because then when they see us model that kind of behavior, to model that authenticity and that honesty with them, then it helps them feel safe enough to do the same, for them to feel like they can take responsibility for their actions because they don't have to be afraid of the circumstances. They don't have to be afraid of being shamed or blamed or judged for their missteps. They can actually move into a place of reflection where they can look at their behaviors and notice what kind of an effect that they had on others. So that is my teachable moment for you today. The Teach tool is a 5-step process. Don't be in a rush to solve problems, especially if your child is overly emotional or resistant or aggressive. These are all clues for you that your child is in a dysregulated state and that he needs more help and connection to move him through it. So that is my teachable moment for you this week. I hope that you found it helpful, and I want to know, what do you guys find most difficult in this 5-step process? Is it the self-empathy? Is it finding the right words to say? Is it connecting with an aggressive child? Let me know. Leave a note in the comments and tell me, what is the hardest part for you in practicing peaceful conflict resolution? And of course, for more tips and tools, visit me on the website, sign up for updates, and when you subscribe to my weekly updates, you will receive my 4 keys to shifting negative behavior. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, and please remember, it is about consciousness, not perfection. Take care, everybody.